The next evening, Nkiru was taken to a location and a dark cave outside town. All the women of the club were present and were all dressed in red from head to toe. Nkiru was initiated into the club by being asked to say some words and take some oaths in the presence of all the women of the club. At the end of the initiation process, Nkiru was told it was daybreak and Nkiru's eyes felt very heavy. She had not slept all through the night, and this was because she had cried and sobbed all through. She looked at her young daughter who was lying beside her and was still asleep. Looking at her daughter, Nkiru shed more tears as she could not fight back the tears. A week ago, she was a mother of 2 beautiful children, a son and a daughter. But now, only her daughter remained. Her son had died after having been sick for weeks without proper treatment. Nkiru blames her husband for their son's death because it was his negligence that caused their son to die. Emenike, Nkiru's husband, is a very wealthy man. He has 2 large cocoa farms and exports his produce to big cities and makes so much money. But despite the money Emenike makes, his wife and children lived like paupers. Emenike is a miser to his wife and children. Despite his wealth, Nkiru and her children have no good clothes to wear, as the only clothes Nkiru has been wearing over the years were the ones Emenike had bought for her when they first got married. The excess of clothes is to cover our nakedness, and that is all you should be concerned about. The clothes you have are still very okay and you are not naked, so keep wearing them, Emenike kept saying to his wife whenever she asked him for money to get new clothes for herself and their children. Nkiru does not have access to the storeroom where they kept foodstuffs, as it is only Emenike who owns the key to the storeroom and can only access it. He made the key special for himself, and every morning he would bring out only a very tiny tuber of yam or a very small quantity of cassava flakes, and that is all Nkiru and their children would have for the whole day. Emenike goes to the market himself to buy the foodstuffs. He would ask Nkiru to write the list of foodstuff they need, but would buy only 1/3 of every item on the list. Now, Emenike's reason for being so stingy, but which he considers as being prudent, is as a result of his childhood. Emenike did not know his mother because she died while he was still a baby. His father married a year later, and Emenike grew up thinking that his father's wife was his mother because she took care of him and treated him like her own child. Emenike's father was a wealthy man, but his wife was extravagant. She made excessive demands and would always buy expensive and flamboyant things. She had friends who were like her, and they made excessive demands of their husbands also. Soon, Emenike's father became poor because of his wife's extravagant lifestyle and how she constantly spent his money. And Emenike, who had enough to eat before, now suffered hunger and experienced hardship. His stepmother left his father, and that was when he even learnt that she was not his biological mother. The husbands of 2 of his stepmother's friends also suffered the same fate. So, Emenike vowed to himself that he would not allow his wife waste his money like his father allowed his stepmother to. Well, it is obvious that Emenike is doing more than just being prudent. In the past, Nkiru had started a small vegetable business so she could provide for herself and her children, and so she would not have to wait for Emenike to always give them a tiny yam tuber before they could eat. She borrowed some money from her cousin to start the vegetable business. But one day, Emenike scattered her stall and destroyed her goods when he found out about her business. According to him, She would grow wings and may challenge me one day if she starts making her own money, he told his friends. Nkiru decided to take a job in a clothing shop, and yet again, when Emenike found out, he fought and beat up the man who had employed his wife. Also, Nkiru was pregnant with their third child, but in the 5th month, she lost the pregnancy, and the doctor said that it was due to malnutrition and stress. And just barely 2 months after losing the pregnancy, her son fell ill with malaria. Nkiru pleaded with her husband to give her money to take their son to the hospital, but Emenike would not. It is just a small illness. Give him painkillers and he will be fine. I don't have money to waste and give to those hungry doctors who always wants to exploit their patients for just an ordinary body pain and weakness, Emenike kept saying. And all through the period of 3 weeks that their son was sick, Emenike kept him in the house and gave him only painkillers which he bought from a local medicine store. That afternoon, Nkiru, who could no longer sit by and watch her son suffer, had gone to her cousin to borrow some money so she could take her son to the hospital. But it was too late. She returned with the money she had borrowed, but met her son lying lifeless at home. The whole incident played in Nkiru's mind that morning while she lay on the bed. I can't continue to live this way. What if my daughter also falls sick someday and suffer the same fate as her brother? No way. I must do something, Nkiru said. Now, there was a woman who was called Madam Ego. Madam Ego was a widow but was very wealthy. Her house was beautiful and magnificent. She drove an expensive car and wore expensive clothes. In the past, Nkiru had gone to Madam Ego to beg for money to do business, but Madam Ego gave her none. Instead, she told Nkiru that she wants to teach her how to make her own money and asked that Nkiru joins a women's club. The women in Madam Ego's club were mostly widows, and the few who weren't don't live with their husbands. Nkiru had an uneasy feeling about this, but she had been desperate for money, and that was why she had gone to Madam Ego. But when Madam Ego would not give her any money and insisted that Nkiru joins her club first, Nkiru refused and made it point blank to Madam Ego that she was not interested. But now, as Nkiru lay on the bed and with the determination to do something about her situation, all she could think of was to go to Madam Ego. And with this resolve, Nkiru left the bed, woke up her daughter, bathed her and gave her some food to eat. After that, she asked her daughter to remain at home, that she was going somewhere and would be back soon. I am ready to join your club now. I want to make my own money, Nkiru said to Madam Ego when she got to Madam Ego's house. Very well then, come back tomorrow evening, Madam Ego replied, smiling. The next evening, Nkiru was taken to a location and a dark cave outside town. All the women of the club were present and were all dressed in red from head to toe. Nkiru was initiated into the club by being asked to say some words and take some oaths in the presence of all the women of the club. At the end of the initiation process, Nkiru was told that she would now start having money, but must keep sleeping with different men at least once every month for her to continue seeing money and to keep her wealth. Nkiru was confused and begged, saying that she could not do such, but she was told that now that she was part of them and had taken those oaths, she must do it or stand a chance to lose the wealth and her daughter alongside. She was told that the man could be anybody so long he is a man, and that she only has to sleep with a man once every month if she does not desire more men. They revealed that every man she sleeps with would either die after 3 weeks or would become useless and run mad or turn to an imbecile. Nkiru asked if her husband would also be affected if she sleeps with him, and she was told yes, because he is also a man. Nkiru went back home regretting her decision, what she had done and what she had committed herself to. But it was too late, as she could not bear to go through the trauma of losing another child again. The next morning, an unknown woman visited Nkiru and gave her bags full of many money, claiming that she was Nkiru's late mother's old friend and that she was owing Nkiru's mother but have now come to pay back the money. Nkiru became rich as a result of that money. Meanwhile, after losing his son, Emenike now tried to adjust. He stopped locking the storeroom and stocked it with more foodstuffs. He also blamed himself for his son's death and was now trying to make amends. He also tried to give Nkiru some money to buy new clothes and anything she wanted for herself and their daughter. But Nkiru ignored him and did not accept the money, as it was too late and it was medicine after death, as it is commonly said. Emenike was around when the strange woman who claimed to be the friend of Nkiru's late mother had come and gave Nkiru the large sum of money. And from that day, Emenike watched his once poor wife, who had depended on him, now having her own money, and now became so wealthy than he is after a short time. Meanwhile, Nkiru, though not happy, kept sleeping with different men months after months. She rented an apartment in another town where she takes young gigolos who are looking for wealthy sugar mummies to sleep with. And every man she slept with ends up dying, running mad, or becoming an imbecile. But Nkiru avoided her husband and did not allow him to touch her. Though she was angry at him for pushing her into joining a secret cult, she still loved him and he was still the father of her child. All this while, Emenike felt that his wife was still angry with him for the loss of their child, and that was why she would not allow him to touch her. He kept on apologizing and buying gifts for her so she would forgive him. But still, she stayed away from him, mostly at night. One evening, Emenike, who was tired and yearned so much to touch his wife, drugged Nkiru's food when she was not washing, causing her to fall into a deep sleep that night. Then he slept with her. He felt bad at the end of the activity that he had to drug his own wife to sleep with her, and vowed never to attempt such again, because what he did was equal to rape. But it was too late still, as he did not know that what he has done was more than that, and that he had dug his own grave. Nkiru suspected it by the time she woke up the next morning and kept asking Emenike if he slept with her. But Emenike outrightly denied he did. And 5 weeks later, Emenike died after suffering from a mysterious illness. But before he died, Nkiru, who had run to call a pastor to pray for him, confessed to him when the pastor asked her to. She told him about the secret cult she had joined out of frustration and desperation. She told him that it was why she kept avoiding him, and also why she kept asking him if he slept with her that night, and that if he had opened up to her, she would have sought for a solution and help on time. In his dying bed, Emenike asked that Nkiru forgives him instead, because he was responsible for the action she took. He died immediately he said those words. Nkiru cried because it was never her intention to kill her husband. The pastor prayed for her and her child, and she forfeited the devil's gifts. The lesson to be learned from this story is that we should not allow our negative experiences shape our thoughts and action. Emenike allowed his childhood experience affect his relationship with his wife and caused him to lose his son. And Nkiru allowed all her husband did to her and grief to becloud her sense of judgment, and went to seek help from Madam Ego, even when she suspects all along that something was not right about Madam Ego's women's club. We must bear in mind that evil does not end evil, rather it breeds more evil. Secondly, we should be mindful of the things we do and not let people have bad experiences because of us. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story and have learned a thing or two from it. I would love to know. Please leave a comment. Thank you for listening and see you in our next story. Bye.